how bummed are you that the chances of Mr. Freeze being our next Batman villain seems to be dwindling away?
It's dwindling slowly, but I have not lost hope yet because there has been some talks today going on that have been very interesting. So apparently, Mike Flanagan, who did Doctor Sleep,
Right,
as
which
well
was
as
so good.
Midnight Mass, and
Oh,
The Haunting of Hill House. Those kind of
those
like
were
Netflix
also so
horror
good.
shows, so good.
Midnight Mass was mind-blowing.
Yeah, I loved Midnight Mass. Apparently, sources tell Deadline that he has pitched a feature-length film to DC being Clayface. Clayface.
That was my Clayface impression. Wow, okay.
It's interesting because he's expressed interest to do a Clayface movie before, in which he would make, in his words, were a horror / thriller / tragedy. And I would love to see that. He's kind of come out on Twitter and said that regarding the news today, it's entirely speculative. And then he says, when or if something that ever becomes real, he promises that he will tell us. So we'll see if that's just jibber jabber, if that's just talk, if that's, him covering up for something. Because apparently something is happening. Apparently it's the era of Clayface right now because the Batman 2 is rumored to also have Clayface as a villain in their script.
Yeah, like what's going on there? It feels like a little too much of a coincidence. Like something is definitely up. And I would be super curious to see how Matt Reeves would handle a character who would need to be mainly CGI, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, could you pull off Clayface in some sort of practical effects makeup?
There might be a way to do it both, but he's kind of like constantly like dripping clay,
right? Like there's like a constant movement to him.
Yeah. But apparently these two Clayface adaptations are separate, are what they're saying. So, or maybe they're not. Maybe it ends up being the Clayface movie is set in the Batman Elseworlds universe. They might. I don't know. We'll see. What happens,
why
I
not?
guess.
It is interesting how the Batman storyline can be like told through the perspective of such like human characters, but at the same time, like this story can be told with like men in tights flying through the sky and like an all-powerful alternate being like seeking to destroy everything in its wake,
Yeah, well, and I mean, even a character like Clayface, where his story is tragic, but he's such a ridiculous concept of a character that definitely finds the balance. I will say, I think it would be cool to see how Clayface would fit into the Matt Reeves universe, because I loved the tone they set, and to have a more kind of fantasy character villain in that vibe of a universe would be really cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Because we've already got confirmation on Paul Dano coming back as Riddler, as well as Penguin.
Yeah.
Who at this point will be a pretty developed character for audiences who have been following through the show and everything, right?
Yeah. Do you think Barry, what is his name? Barry Keoghan?
Oh, as the Joker.
He's going to be coming back as Joker.
See, this is where things get a little sketchy for me, because it seems like a consistent mistake throughout history. Shall we reference back to Spider-Man 3 when they put too many chefs in the kitchen, too many cooks in the kitchen, and you start to burn things. And I feel like in an instance like where you have too many villains going on with so many different like motivating factors, the storytelling can get muddied up.
Yeah.
And perhaps start to lose the power it should actually be given like in its own separate storyline. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that we don't get any more Joker in Batman 2, or if we do get anything else in the sequel, that it's very minimal and maybe just setting up for Joker to have a different story in 3.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I feel similar, but I'm such a big Joker fan that like I'm always down to see another iteration. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, sure.
I'm also a huge Batman fan, so I want to see different villains of his, especially the ones we've never really seen a good version of, like Mr. Freeze, or I mean, other than
Yeah,
animated stuff and video games, of course, but Mr. Freeze,
sure.
Clayface, even like Mad Hatter or Pig, like Professor Pig would be nuts for like a
Oh, that
horror
would be
horror
so
villain or
sick.
something.
Oh, I would be there for
And that
that.
would
Yeah,
fit really well in the
100%.
Matt Reeves universe too.
Well, I guess with bated breath, we will await the arrival of the Dark Knight. Wait, I mean, the Batman. 2.